God bless you. Amen. We're going to go to in just a few moments the 12th chapter of First Chronicles in the Old Testament and Children's Church. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you for the reminder. She was being reminded, it's time for Children's Church. It's time for Children's Church. I believe that within each and every one of us that there is a destiny that God has purposed and planned in us. I don't believe in happenstance. I don't believe in coincidence. But I believe in providence. I believe that God, if you're here today, that it is not by mistake, it is not by error, but it is by design. As a matter of fact, you go back in time to before there ever was a star, there ever was a sun, there ever was a moon. Before any of these things ever existed, that God looked through the quarter of time, and He looked on May the 5th, 2024. And He knew that you were going to be here today. He knows everything that's happened in your life. He knows where you are today and what your circumstances are today. And not only does He know those things, He knows where He's taking you. And I believe that in each and every one of us, there is destiny. Jean de La Fontaine once said, have you ever felt that there was something inside of you waiting to be birthed? A destiny waiting to be realized and stepped into. Your God-given destiny, that is there waiting for you, but you're stuck in this in-between state of never moving forward. Sound familiar? Have you ever felt like at times in your life you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards? I've been there. And you feel like that God has placed something in you. You feel like you have a dream, you have a vision, you have an unfulfilled or something that you feel like that you were called to do, and you've never seen the full fruition of that dream or that vision come to pass. So consequently, sometimes you feel like that maybe I missed the boat. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I wasn't hearing God exactly correctly. Everyone in this building, we all look different. We're made of different stature. Some are tall and slim like myself. I noticed you chuckled at that one. But we don't have the same size ears. Did you know that there is one thing that is distinct about every human being that you cannot hide when it really comes right down to where you get that, somebody really gets what they call your funny bone, and you get really tickled and you let out that belly laugh? Did you know that everybody has a distinct laugh that cannot be hidden and it cannot be disguised? Now, I have different laughs that I've made up in acting and so on and so forth, but when it really comes to my laugh, it's not very pleasant to hear. Really, it'll make you laugh because you'll be making fun of me. And but God has given each and every one of us certain things that are very distinct. They're unique to us. None of us have the same size ears. None of us have the same framed noses. And Diana, every time I'm trying to change my emoji, you know, that emoji, or what do you call it, avatar, on Facebook to where it looks like me. And so I'll ask her, I'll say, does this look like me? And she says, no, it doesn't look anything like you. And so I try to come up with the right size nose and the right size ears and everything else, but I don't think they make those in avatars. And the right shape of the faces, and some are large boned and some are smaller boned, and our framework is all different. But everyone, for a fact, the same unique way that we're all different, God has given us a destiny. But so few choose to walk it out with Him because they want it their way. They are of the Burger King persuasion. Have it your way. But for me, it took some big stuff to happen in my life. But here's some nuggets I learned from that journey of God breaking the man that I thought I was. I've been to a lot of places. I've achieved some what I would consider things that were honorable. And then I've been on the top and I've been on the bottom. And we all know that it's far more pleasant on the top, such as things we call the mountaintop, as opposed to the valley. But like the old song that was written, is that He's still the God of the mountain and He's still the God of the valley. He's God of the A and He's the God of the Z and He's the God of everything in between. He is Alpha and He is Omega. He is beginning. He is end. There is no God like our God. He is infinite. He is forever. He is eternal. He is omniscient. He's omnipotent. At the same time that He's here in what we would consider an isolated rural area of the United States of America, 6 Points, North Carolina. I don't know the exact population here, but when there are 8 million people in New York at the same time, He is here. He's there. At the same time He is there, He's in China. He's not limited to time zones, but He is always and always will be God. Regardless of the time zone, regardless of the geographics, He's God. And He sits on the throne of heaven. And today I want to talk to you about the journey. That 3 steps that there are very important in your journey. Number 1 is to step into your destiny. You can't do it alone. So many of us choose a safe retreat from life or choose to walk the wide road of culture, the culture of the world. The sad part is that both paths eventually come to a place in our search for meaning where all we find is a deep emptiness. We try certain things, and if we could only get this thing, it would sure enough fill that emptiness and that void that I have in my life. I started that off with my first guitar. By the time I wound up to number 16, I found out that each guitar that I got didn't make me a better guitarist. It was just another thing to hang on my wall. Some of you guys are like that with guns, or a lot of you women are like that with shoes. Trust me. I've never seen so many shoes in my life as what are in our closet. I think Diana could open a store and sell shoes, used shoes. It's a good probably business for you to start. Maybe we want to work on that. But what we often miss is that regardless of what we achieve and we attain, that still yet, when we choose our own road and we're trying to find our destiny, and that's that place I talked to a guy here this last week, and I said, so you built your own home? He said, I built 14 homes. I had an uncle that he did the same thing. He was a master carpenter, and he built one home, and then he sold it, and he would take the profit that he made by doing everything himself, take the profit, buy another house, do the same thing until eventually he had paid cash, never had a mortgage for his home whatsoever. But with each house, you want a bigger house or you want a bigger car. It's always nice to get a new car, isn't it? Isn't it nice to get the new car? and it's so nice until 30 days later when you have the first payment. And you find, oh, this car is so nice and it's so beautiful, and then all of a sudden you got to start paying for the thing unless you pay cash. And but the thing of it is this, is that regardless, and I've seen this in so many people's life, is that they feel like in reaching their own, that's their goal in life, is that if I can just get here, if I can just get there, if I can just get more money, if I can just get a larger home, if I could just do this, if I could just do that, then I would feel that emptiness and that void in my life. But we find out all so soon that after we've done that, it doesn't work. We chose our way, and we kind of deviated from what God intended for us. I'm here today, and you know my story. Started off in the hills of West Virginia. I went from West Virginia, and I want you to get this. I was pastoring in West Virginia. I moved from West Virginia, and you want to talk about cultural shock. I moved from West Virginia to New York. And when I went to New York, Diane and I, we were driving one night, and we had a Chevrolet Astrovan, one of the conversion vans. Remember those? And that conversion van, somehow or another, we were going across the George Washington Bridge and doing whatever, but they were doing some construction, and they cut off the interstate. And we had to get off the interstate, and we wound up right in the middle of, guess where? Harlem, New York, at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I pulled up to a stoplight, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, a guy jumped on the front bumper of my car. Now here you have two hillbillies from West Virginia that are in the middle of Harlem, New York. And a guy jumps up on your car and squirts down your window with some type of stuff, and he has a squeegee in his hand. Well, I know the story now that they do stuff like that to try to get you to give them money, and that's how they make their living and doing whatever. And my godly reaction to him is that I wanted to be as kind as I could, as I looked at him and I said, "Get off!" And he gave me that dirty look, like, who you talking to? And I said it again, and I said, "Get off." Now, Diana said, "What would you have done if he would have pulled out a gun or something like that?" I said I would have made him a sandwich in between me and the next bumper of the next vehicle. After he got off, I ran every red light that there was in Harlem, New York, until I could get back on across the Throgs Neck Bridge and get back to my destiny. I knew where I was going. But here's the thing. I've been from West Virginia to New York to Mississippi to Oklahoma City, and looking back, and I think I made mention of this yesterday, every place in my life, there have been some places in my life and in my ministry that I looked up in the middle of, right smack dab, in the middle of my ministry, and I said, what in the world am I doing here? What am I accomplishing here? What am I doing that's making an impact? Lord, I think you made a mistake. Have you ever felt like that in your life, that maybe God made a mistake, where in reality God had you on the journey to where you are today, and where you are today isn't the end, but there's another chapter in your life that God's getting ready to write? And it doesn't, if you're here today and regardless of your physical condition, every time I sit down for any length of time, I get up and I'm kind of like that, I feel like Tim Conway. And I tell Diane, I say, we have to start exercising more, and I need to get more limber. And I can't do certain things that I used to do, and I look at where I am today, and when we went through this recent catastrophe, for lack of better words, at the parsonage and the flood, somehow or another we're trying to survive and make sure that I didn't ruin my senior picture that was right in the middle of everything. And the other day we're going to try to clean it up and do our best to make sure that it's not destroyed. And I looked at it the other day and I said, who is that cat over there? Is that the same guy that's here today? Where's the red hair? And I hear I've got white hair. I look back over my life and everything, but I'd see back, even though I didn't notice it at the time where I was, where I didn't necessarily appreciate where God had placed me at that moment in time, I look back at everything that has transpired in my life up to where I am today, and I can say to you today that God did not make a mistake. Even when I made a mistake, He knew I was going to make a mistake, and it did not prevent Him from bringing me where I am today. And the same way in your life. Where you are today is not the end. Look over at somebody and say, God's not finished with me. You see, He's writing another chapter in your life. And so you cannot get to your destiny alone. What we often miss is that the deepest aspect of our life, that part of us that is most significant, cannot be accomplished alone. I'm going to get to our text in just a few moments. Number 2, to step into our destiny, we need to surround ourselves with the right team. I heard a man say one time, he says, "What is your vision?" And I explained it to him, and he says, "Well, let me tell you something." He says, if your vision, if you feel like you can fulfill and accomplish your vision by yourself, it's not a very big vision. So, number 2, to step into your destiny, you need to surround yourselves with the right team. We always want to step into the hero syndrome of trying to realize our God-given destiny on our own. Ever notice that quickly that everybody singly, they pick out one person, single person, to give them credit for a win or a loss in a sporting event. Oh, it was an outstanding play. It was a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth. They were down by 3, 2 outs. And so stepped up to the plate, and he hit a grand slam, and they won the game. Yeah, but how did the other 3 guys get on base? They had to get on base for him to hit the grand slam. They say about Larry Bird that he was one of the most arrogant. Those of you that know Larry Bird, what did I do with my water? They say that Larry Bird was one of the most arrogant. Anybody know who Larry Bird is? They say Larry Bird was one of the most arrogant, trash-talking basketball players that ever played the game. A friend of mine, went to a game to see the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics play, and they were down. The Celtics were down by just a few, and Larry Bird came out. They called a timeout. They got in their timeout, and Larry Bird came out and said, this guy was like on the front row, and he right by the bench, and he looked at Larry Bird. He could hear him say, I'm getting the ball. And he says, I'm going to get it right here. And he says, I'm going to take the shot, and we're going to win the game. And I thought, well, maybe this guy, thank you. I thought, well, maybe this guy's just making it up or whatever. But I heard some TikTok videos and things of that nature that said that he would do that every time he says, okay, I'm getting the ball right now. Here's where I'm getting the ball, and I'm taking the shot. And then you say such things, there's nothing you can do about it. And that's being pretty arrogant. And getting into sports, there are many great athletes that have played the game, and he is one of the greatest ones, but it took a team. It takes the other guys on the team. Ever notice that when we single out one person, we take away from the whole team? So let's step into the story of David, and he was stepping into God's given destiny. It wasn't happenstance, but he was going to become the king of Israel. Many come with unique talents and abilities to join David in 1 Chronicles. In 1 Chronicles chapter 12, we're going to take a couple of verses 12, 1 through 2, and then we're going to jump down to verses 38 through 40. If you would, Travis, please bring up 12, 1 through 2 first. Now, these were the men who came to David at Ziklag while he was still a fugitive from Saul, the son of Kish. Notice this very carefully. He wasn't a king as of yet, right? He wasn't a king as of yet. He was a fugitive. He was on the run. And they were among the mighty men, helpers in the war. Verse 2, please. Armed with bows, using both the right hand and the left hand in hurling stones and shooting arrows with the bow. They were of Benjamin, Saul's brother. Now let me explain that to you before we go to verses 38 through 40. These men were very skilled. Those of you that know what it's like when somebody can use their left hand equally, they have the same talents with their left hand as they do with their right hand, is because they are considered to be ambidextrous. And these men were all ambidextrous. Let's go on to verses. We're going to skip down and go to verses 38 through 40, same chapter. All these men of war who could keep ranks came to Hebron with a loyal heart, and to make David king over all Israel. And all the rest of Israel were of one mindset to make David king. Verse 39, please. And they were there with David 3 days, eating and drinking, for their brethren had prepared for them. Verse 40. Moreover, those who were near to them from as far away as Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, were bringing food on donkeys and camels, on mules, on oxen, provision of flour and cakes of figs and cakes of raisins, wine and oil and oxen as sheep abundantly, for there was joy in Israel. Amen. As we step into to this story here, many came with David with unique talents and abilities. And they came to join David, but First Chronicles gives us insight into the characteristics of his core that walked with him on the path to his destiny. David could not do it alone. These were the men who came to David at Ziklag while he was banished from the presence of Saul, son of Kish. They were among the warriors who helped him in battle. They were armed with bows. They were able to shoot arrows or sling stones, right-handed, left-handed. They were relatives of Saul from the tribe of Benjamin. Some Gadites defected to David at his stronghold in the wilderness. They were brave warriors, ready for battle, and able to handle the shield and spear. Their faces were the faces, listen to this, as of lions. And they were as swift as gazelles in the mountains. What an awesome description of these men. Notice that there was a specific kind of warrior that joined David, necessary for his success. David was not going to be able to run this kingdom, or he was not going to be able to fight this battle alone. I'm telling you here, folks, today is that we are a team. Some people don't like being on a team. They don't like being on a team, and they don't like working with other people, and especially if they can't be the big shot, they don't want to be any shot. They're going to take their ball and they're going to run home. But these people, it says that they were loyal men. These men were ferocious, adaptable, courageous. In other words, they were ready to work together as a team and demonstrated a bravery that was unmatched. These men were described as having faces like lions. Think about that for a moment. Imagine the imagery of a lion, and all of a sudden, a lion is coming at you. You step into your destiny. For you to step into your destiny, we need to surround ourselves with the right team. Amen? Somebody say amen. Thirdly, I did that for your sake, not mine. To step into your destiny, we need to stop playing it safe. Most of us want to play it safe with a predictable life so we can look more awesome than what we actually are. We want to live, as I told you earlier, the lives of Barbie and Ken. And that's where Diana and I were headed. And I told you before. We found out that now at our age, it's more like Archie and Edith. You can start calling us Pastor Archie and Pastor Edith if you want to. That's fine with me. But we want to play it safe, predictable, the perfect life, the perfect home, the perfect time for retirement, the perfect time to just kind of sit back in our easy chairs. It's so much easier to look awesome when life is easy, right? Everything is, as we used to say in West Virginia, I don't know what this actually means. I hope it's not cussing. But actually, hunky-dory. Everything is just hunky-dory. You ever know people like that? It seems like that they have the perfect life. Is this you? Periodically, is that anchor? Predictability, is that anchor that weighs on us down our road to destiny? In other words, that will rob us of our future in that space. There are some surprises. There are some good surprises. Now, I just happened to notice something the other day. I was going through Facebook. I'm not quite as active on Facebook as I used to be. I try to watch what I say, try to be a good boy. But if you ever look at one thing on Amazon, you're going to have all kinds of advertisements that are going to come up on your phone. So the other day, I was just kind of scrolling down the page, and all of a sudden I opened up my page, and then I looked, and it was this what I thought was kind of a really neat gift to get Diana for Mother's Day. Now, I told her about it last night because I got to worrying. I thought, well, Mother's Day's next Sunday. Is it going to arrive in time? I don't know, because it's, kind of special. But I told her, and this is the truth, I said, you're really not going to like it. And I'm going to get you something else that I know that she would really like. But I told her, she said, now why did you tell me that? And what I want to do, I wanted to prepare her up for the big surprise. Now, we have good surprises, right? I like a good surprise. But also we have bad surprises, correct? Things that we didn't predict. The life of predictability seems so much easier. The things that we predict that are going to happen, that we're prepared for, it makes life so much easier and so much smoother. But it's when that one thing, the unpredictable thing that happens in our life, that surprise that isn't so pleasant. That bad news that comes from a doctor. That refrigerator breaking down at the most inconvenient time. We're finishing up on the project and everything, and actually God's blessing us, and actually we're going to do here in a couple weeks. I've got one more part of the project to finish in the basement. I think the only person that really actually saw it in its worst stage was Steve Proquet and David Page. And Dave, it was a mess, wasn't it? It was a mess. You think the very first thing that was a surprise. That wasn't a good surprise. And what we had to deal with before we got the mitigation, but in the long run, we're going to do a little walkthrough and let you see that how nice it is down there now, and actually we're going to come out ahead on the project. And actually, the basement looks better than the upstairs now. And Diana and I lost some things. We lost furniture. We lost our insurance didn't cover our personal renter's insurance didn't cover our loss. I'd have to go down and just make a list, and I'm not even going to do it because I don't want to get depressed. But we lost enough. There's thousands of dollars, probably somewhere in the vicinity of $4,000 to $6,000, and some things that are irreplaceable. Some special things that were, they were things that are very private and personal to us that we can't replace. They're gone. I don't like those kind of surprises. I like the predictable surprise of me living. I have a friend of mine, and we make a joke. His brother is a millionaire, and he's a half a millionaire. Had a very good job, has a beautiful home. And if ever I come into the money, I would probably buy a home exactly like his. So the predictable part of my life would say that would be my home, that would be the thing that I do, but we'll probably in reality wind up in a van down by the river. Predictability is an anchor that weighs us down on a road to destiny that will rob us of our future in that space. There's an epic battle that's going on for your heart, and so many people don't see this, or they choose to ignore it. For just a moment, I want you to just step into the belief that there is a battle going on. Do you think that stepping into your destiny, God-given destiny, is going to be a walk in the park? Do you think that there's going to be no opposition? Of course not. The world in which we live is a combat zone, a violent clash of kingdoms. We're wrestling not against flesh and blood, but we're wrestling against the principalities and the rulers of darkness of this present world. And sometimes, though it's hard to admit, life can be bitter, and it can be a struggle. I have a friend of mine, and I actually have never met him other than through a friend of mine on Facebook. A perfect gentleman. Probably has some wealth to him according to the jobs that he's had, and was living in a nice condo, an apartment in Nashville, Tennessee. And he posted a thing yesterday about how life can be bittersweet because he's moving to a little cottage, and he was a commercial real estate agent, and he's moving into a little cottage that just where it's on his daughter's property so that he can be closer to his home, to his family. He said, it's bittersweet because I'm leaving all this other stuff and I'm going to this more confined space. And so those are things in life, but life sometimes offers us bitter and it offers us sweet, and they're both important ingredients in God getting us to our destiny. I'm sorry to be the one to break the news to you, but you were born into a world at war. And you are in one of the greatest battles. You are in the greatest battle of all your days. In the midst of a great battle involving all the forces of heaven and all the forces of hell, and it's played out here on earth. In John chapter 10, we read, the thief comes only to steal and destroy, but I have come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. Let this sink into your life. I won't single everyone, I'm not going to single anyone out by name. But as your pastor, I know your story. I know what some of you are struggling with, and there are more than one. With parents that are elderly, they have some physical things going on, and even you are faced with tough decisions in the future, and probably in the near future. and you're just thinking about this and that and probably 101 other things as to what could happen. Others that have a spouse or a loved one or another family member that's very ill. Something's going on in their life physically, and maybe it doesn't look like there's a lot of hope. Brothers, sisters, husbands. I wish I had the perfect cure and the perfect answer for you. But for all of those, every one that I've mentioned in every scenario, the people that are still here with us, God's not finished with them either, and He has their destiny in His hands, and He knows the time, He knows the hour, He knows the place, and He knows your hurt. And He sees your pain. And you're sitting here thinking, I can only imagine how I'm going to deal with this. But God already knows how you're going to deal with it. But He's there to help strengthen you and help you make the right decisions and help walk you through that, through your pain and through your struggles to get you to where you're going. Because I never will forget, after my father was just, he loved Christmas, and he loved to try to guess what he was getting every year, and he would shake packages and say, oh, I know what this is, and everything else. And so I remember he died on December 4th, 1977. And I remember my mother looking and saying that she wasn't going to decorate the house. She wasn't going to decorate it with trees or anything like that. And she said, Christmas is just not going to be Christmas here this year without Jack. And I listened to that for just a moment. I said, Mother, I said, Christmas is not about Daddy. It's about Jesus. It's about His birth. Life doesn't end with our struggles. It's a part of our story. If you don't believe me, step into the epic stories. You'll not change the world by living in a tucked away, comfortable space between. That is not destiny. We've learned to be agile and fearless and to surround ourselves with people who will walk your destiny patch with you. You're on earth for a reason. You are here today because there are people in your sphere of influence that will never connect to God if you don't steward your opportunity and take responsibility to what God has entrusted in you with your destiny. So I'm telling you, don't look for the comfortable life. Just say yes to God today. Say, yes, God, I'm willing to submit to your will and not my way, that I could see your full, complete destiny that you have for me. Surround yourself with a bold, courageous team, with whatever position you've been given in the church. Don't try to do it yourself. Try to get you a team together. Drop the anchor of predictability in your life and become who you were created to be. Would you stand with me? Rise up in the name of Jesus and walk out your destiny road. The world is desperate for you to step into your God-given destiny to be salt and light and to impact this world one person at a time. If you lift up your hands, say to the Lord today, Lord, I thank you for where you've brought me from and what you've brought me through to get to where I am today. And though I may not know the future, I know that you know where you're taking me. So I'm making my mind up today that I'm going to get the team together and we're going to walk together from this place to the place you have intended for us. In the name of Jesus, I submit myself in Jesus' name. I submit to you today that you're impregnated with the promise. We're going to observe the communion today and worship the Lord with that. I will remind you, after Sister Karen's finished, we are going to be taking up an offering for Brother David and Sister Rita. So right now, Sister Karen's going to come, and we're going to observe the Lord's Supper here today. God bless you.